We are now recording. So, Christy, thank you for making yourself available for me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's great to see you here. And like I said initially, the first question is about the theme of our series is called "What's in Your Cup?" And so, in lieu of doing kind of a coffee house interview, maybe talk to me about what you like to drink on a day like this, or at a time like midday in the afternoon. Did you freeze up again?
Right now, since it's like 104 degrees, if the sun's hitting you directly, some ice cold water would be nice. I mean, I'm typically I don't like juices. I don't like sodas. So I'm more of a water drinker, if anything. I will indulge in a tea every now and then, like a honey tea, but it's way too hot for that. So definitely just ice cold water with the crushed ice.
Oh, that's great. They say you need 8 glasses a day. So
Yep.
perfect. Well, thank you, Christy. I appreciate you joining me. And, to start these interviews, like I said, I wanted to kind of get a little idea of your background. Now, I just kind of went to your campaign page, and I know that you're the youngest candidate running, and this is your first foray into politics, if I'm correct. So talk to me about why you felt interested in running for the 19th district, and what got you interested in politics in the first place.
Well, I always like to tell people the crazy thing about politics in general is that, especially young people like myself, we don't really like politics. It's not about politics. It's more about the country and the issues. And I very, very rarely meet young people who are involved in politics who didn't feel a calling due to like a specific issue, as opposed to they just wanted to be part of the legislative process. That's what I've been very passionate about, particularly since I'm a lifelong resident here in Southwest Florida. This is my home. I'm very protective of it. And when I saw that we have a track record of electing officials who put in millions of dollars into their campaigns, buy their way through an election, and then only answer to special interests, PACs, insider politicians, and they line their own pockets and do insider deals, as opposed to answering to the actual people that they are supposed to represent, I couldn't stand by anymore and allow that same kind of elected official to be elected again, especially in 2020. This is far too important. In my opinion, this year is a revolution, and it will be the determining factor of whether we remain a constitutional nation where we protect fundamental liberties, where we answer to the people rather than answering to the politicians or the powers that be. This is an opportunity to bring the power back the way it was intended by our founding fathers, that it is a nation made of the people that give the power to the Constitution, to the federal government, to the state and local government.
Right. Well, Christy, I wanted to touch on what your priorities would be were you to be elected our next congresswoman here in the 19th district. And just by going to your website, I know that just on your website, it talks about the fact that you're a candidate who does not accept any political action committee money or any money from corporate interests, and talk about how that would be how that would play into your priorities in office and what you hope to achieve if you are elected our next congresswoman.
Well, absolutely. So as you stated, I am the youngest person running for this seat, but I'm also the youngest person in the nation running for Congress. That said, I am still a certified teacher in the state of Florida and a constitutional lawyer. So my background and qualifications speak for themselves. I made a vow to not accept money from special interests or PACs because I'm such a constitutionalist, because I firmly believe in accountability and transparency. And I think we've been lacking in that in Southwest Florida for far too long. All you have to do is look at the commercials, the smear campaigns on all sides, from Casey to Byron. All of them are smearing each other. And there's a very serious lack of accountability by these candidates. I vow to be transparent and to only answer to 3 things, which is God, the United States Constitution, and the people of Southwest Florida. I hope I've kept that promise so far. But one of my priorities in Congress, if I'm elected, is to maintain our fundamental liberties. What we saw with this coronavirus has shown that Marxism, socialism, tyranny does not happen overnight. It's actually a pervasive step-by-step process that happens over a long term. And in part, it's due to the complacent actions of leaders, not just the active actions of socialist, Marxist, radical leftist leaders. So complacency is not enough anymore in 2020. The status quo is not enough anymore in 2020. What we see with this mask mandates is that it's just a step away from mandatory vaccines or from chipping people to be able to track their whereabouts. It is such an intrusion by the government, it's such an overreach, and it leads to tyranny that it must be stopped. I firmly believe we need to uphold the Constitution and to ensure that we have smaller government. Another big priority of mine would likely be, to do with the fact that we have students in the United States who, although we all have a right to an unbiased and neutral education setting, especially in colleges and universities, we aren't receiving that. And we've seen, since 2016, that there is an infringement on our constitutional rights to free speech in colleges and universities. It's discriminatory on its face when professors use their propaganda machine, their power as a professor, with the sole discretion to grade those students and determine whether they can graduate and have a career, and to have this discrimination against conservative students or have inability to freely speak. That's their constitutional right. So that's something I would also really like to focus on in Congress, because that is how we led into this Marxist, tyrannical, movement that we've been seeing, especially in Minneapolis, in Seattle. We've seen a very, very striking turn to the left, and I think that's in part due to the propaganda machine of colleges and universities and the media.
Gotcha. Well, Christy, as my last question for you this afternoon, I wanted to, get your opinion on how you could use your federal office, if elected, to help start to address some of the major crises that we're facing as a country, because this is really a pretty significant moment right now in our country's history, shaping up to have three major crises all happening at once: people losing their jobs, people getting sick in a pandemic, and then social unrest breaking out on the streets of many American cities. So talk about how you could use your role as a congresswoman to start to help address some of these issues, and what direction you think the country should be taking.
Well, for one, I've been speaking out on this since early March, late February, that we needed to leave the economy open. These forced shutdowns, I think, were very, very damaging to our economy. They had incredible comorbidities, including depression, substance abuse, domestic violence, child abuse. It was just such a damaging effect on this country, and we can never do it again, but I certainly think we should never do it in the first place. What we've seen also with this increase in unemployment is due to the fact that we force shutdowns. It's a beautiful idea when we hear people, representatives, stating that what they would like to do is provide more support to small businesses. But unfortunately, many, many, many small businesses have shut down permanently already. So that help and that aid is in vain. You have to have more proactive measures in Congress. And unfortunately, a big thing that happens in government is its reactive measures as opposed to those proactive measures. Personally, I was fighting against the mask mandates because I also think it's very damaging to the economy. Just think about it. The fact that we're trying to either fine businesses if they allow people to walk in without a mask, so that damages their income, or that we're going to force them to force away or to send away potential customers because they're not wearing a mask, does not help those businesses. I think it's very damaging. Also, mask mandates are a disincentive for some people to even go out at all in the first place and to, participate in the market. I've spoken out a lot against it. I've attended every single meeting. That's the work I've been doing locally. But in Congress, what we need to do is make sure that there is no longer these kinds of government overreach, that we aren't persuading these states to go towards the shutdowns, to go towards the mask mandates, and that we protect fundamental liberties of the individual above all else.
Gotcha. Well, I think that does a pretty good job of summarizing your priorities in office. So thank you for offering all of your answers to those questions. I wanted to give you a little bit of time just at the end of the interview to give a message directly to the voters, to the people who might be putting your name on the ballot on August 18th, and kind of explain to people why you feel like you as a candidate are different and the right choice come August 18th?
Sure. Well, again, my name is Christy McLaughlin. You can visit my website at christyforcongress.com. This phone number behind me is a way that you can actually reach me directly on my cell phone. You can call me or text me at any time. As I've always stated, this seat, a representative, a congressional representative for the people, should be about accountability and transparency. The congressperson works for the people. And they're not some celebrity. There is no, distance between the representative and the people. They should be one unit. The reason why I'm different is because, look, I knew when I first entered the race, it could have been a long shot. The fact that I came in as a 24-year-old young woman, no special interest backing me, no PACs backing me, no big money millionaires who, decided to invest in my campaign because I didn't answer to those political insiders. But we have now an opportunity to prove the typical political status quo wrong, that we have the opportunity to give the power back to the people, the choice and the vote back to the people to decide who they will be represented by, not just millionaires, not just the PACs. And this fact that we've allowed so many dishonest, self-dealing politicians to represent us has just shown that we deserve so much better in Southwest Florida. Personally, I felt that as a lifelong resident, I deserved better in my representatives as well. That's why I gave you my phone number. That's why I don't accept money from PACs or special interests, because I only want to answer to the people. And that's how you remain a true constitutionalist. That's my vow. I will always be your constitutional warrior. I will always be fighting on these issues, and I would greatly appreciate your vote on August 18th.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time, Christy. I really appreciate it.